And I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a shop one way or another. I don't know what I'm going to sell, but I'll figure it out.
Did you ever have moments of, what am I doing? My life, I could do something easier?
No, I
No?
was very committed. And once the doors opened, I was in complete heaven.
When my husband and I first started dating, one of the things we had in common was our mutual love of art. We bought art before we bought furniture. We figured 2 incomes, no mouths to feed. We would eventually own a sofa, but probably never again would set aside money to purchase art. So we had art on our walls before we had a sofa to sit on. So one day recently, after an event, you know those where they talk a lot and feed you not very much, we decided to stop in a local restaurant and grab a seat at the bar and get a bite to eat. We engaged in conversation with 2 women next to us who were having a girls' night out and just found them delightful. So when we found out one of them owned a gallery, of course we were intrigued. We became social media friends and followers. Little did I know, Polly would have her own We're Not Dead Yet story. Polly Denham grew up in Atlanta. She studied art history in Georgia. And then she decided the Big Apple was calling her name. So she and her sister moved to New York City, where she started working at textile firms and other retail establishments where she would help designers make selections for their clients. Within 6 months of being in the Big Apple, she met the man who would become her husband. Eventually, they moved to Connecticut, had a great life, raised 2 boys, and she continued working in the design field. Then cancer, as in so many families, reared its ugly head. Suddenly, Polly was without her husband and had to figure out what she was going to do to put the next foot in front of the other. Her reinvention was out of necessity, not boredom. So she moved back to Georgia and wasn't quite sure what she would do next. But before long, the answer was right in front of her. She would return to her first love, art. Welcome to We're Not Dead Yet, women rocking their next chapter. Polly, thank you for having me in your beautiful gallery today.
Well, thank you for being here.
So tell me, so you're originally from Atlanta.
Yep, born and raised.
And did you go to school in Georgia? Where did you go to school in?
High school, college.
College.
High school, yes. College, University of Georgia, so not
Okay.
in Atlanta.
Very good.
And Queens and Charlotte.
Very good. And what did you study?
Art history.
Art history. Very good. But you found yourself going into the design field.
Yep. After college, I ended up working for a designer in Atlanta.
And what kinds of work did you do?
Well, it wasn't interior design. She had 2 businesses at the time. She had a showroom at ADAC, which is what I managed for 7 years. Furniture, fabric, 20,000 fabric lines from New York, from the D&D building. Lots of art, accessories. She would go to France every year and buy huge containers. So lots of antiques, porcelains. She had it all, and it was the most beautiful shop in the world.
And you ran the shop.
I did.
So you worked mostly with designers then?
Yep,
Yeah.
a lot of that. So I stayed there for 7 years and woke up one morning and said, I just need a restart, something different. And I called my younger sister and said, she was sending me to New York, the designer, to buy for the showroom. So I was spending a lot of time in New York. I had friends that had moved there, and I thought, I really like it here. So I called my sister and said, guess what, I'm moving to New York and I need a roommate. Do you want to be it? She said, absolutely. So I sold my condominium, everything in it, literally in 3 weeks, moved out.
Oh my goodness. And you were at what age was that?
27-ish, 26-ish.
Oh, to be young again.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And then, so in New York, did did you stay working for the same designer? Or did you...
No, I actually ended up with Cowden & Tout, one of the fabric lines that I carried for years and had a great relationship with. And I would go up there when they had parties. They would come to Atlanta when we were, introducing them.
So they're fabric and wallpaper textiles?
Yes.
And so what did you do for them?
I was on the sales floor mostly and always dealing with designers there too, for sure.
Gotcha.
And then but we didn't work for like a few months, so we could just, take New York by storm, which we did, and had fun. And then my sister had a job too, and we were practically in Harlem on 93rd Street and 3rd Avenue, and we'd walk every day to and from and walk a different avenue up and down, so we knew every inch of Midtown Manhattan for sure.
How fun. And so when did you transition to doing your own design work for customers?
Well, I ended up leaving Cowden & Tout and working for a designer who was in one of the suburbs of New York, and lovely person. And she said, well, I have a lot going on and I need you to take care of one of my jobs right now. And it was Meryl Streep. And I went, I think I could do that. Yeah. So I was beside myself. So all we did was hang drapery in 2 rooms, but it was still a great experience. Her husband is a very famous artist too.
Oh, okay.
So he was who I was in, he was in charge of.
You were working with
meeting
him.
with me and all of that stuff. But the last day she was there, it was like, oh my God. So anyway, so that was fun. And then she introduced me to a lot of other people that she gave me all those jobs, and then she did her thing. And then I went out on my own after that.
Okay. And so now when did this husband come into the mix?
I met him the first week in New York because I met him in Atlanta at a wedding and knew he was there. He still says I moved there for him, which is partially true. And so I knew I had somebody to go out with and have fun with when I got there. So, but he was, after the first year, he got transferred to Chicago.
Oh my goodness. After the first year you were married?
No, moving to New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So did you get married before you went to Chicago, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then we were back on the East Coast because I said that Chicago stuff didn't really work out for me. When it doesn't go above freezing for 4 months, I said, it's just not my kind of place.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's not like New York is balmy now.
Exactly. So we got back to the East Coast, and that's when I started to open my own business there, which ended up in Connecticut and not New York, but all my clients happened to be in New York. And for the first 3 years I was in business, I had only bachelors in New York. It just happened. Not by design at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great because they go to work and just say, figure out this room. And, I'd show them a picture of a chair. I like it, it's good. So it was easy work, and it was great and lucrative, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
And then we moved out of New York and moved to the suburbs in Connecticut, and that's when I started working out there.
Gotcha. You started a family.
Correct.
2 boys. Did you have them before you moved to Connecticut? Or
No, both were born in Connecticut. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I continued working.
Full-time or part-time or?
Pretty much full-time until they got to school and somebody needed to be home. And thank goodness most of my clients had kids, so they totally understood that at 3 o'clock I was done.
Mm-hmm.
That was the end of my day.
So when did things take a turn for you up in Connecticut and New York?
Mostly Connecticut. My husband got sick.
And how old were you when he got sick?
He was 60, so I was 57.
You lost your husband and thought, I need to be with family.
Exactly. So I came back having no clue what I would do. And I got a call from a friend in Martha's Vineyard who said, and I knew her from Juliska, and she said, would you please come and run my shop? I have to go to a wedding in Ireland. And she said, I'll pay you, I'll fly you, whatever you need, because I know you can sell anything, which was so funny. And I said, I'm on my way. So I went and kept her shop, small, precious boutique on a great street right in Martha's Vineyard in Edgartown. It was called Slate. That was her clean slate when she started her shop, which was so cool.
Okay, that's cool.
And so it was a great experience because when I walked away from there, I had so much fun. I love to sell, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a shop one way or another. I don't know what I'm going to sell, but I'll figure it out. And it certainly was not going to be clothes. Clearly, that's not me. So I decided to do antiques, accessories, and art. So it took me a year. I went to almost every store in Atlanta that would sell gifts, accessories, antiques, whatever, the combination thereof, so that I would not duplicate, because there's so much duplication here. So I looked around and just thought, I know I want to be different. I don't want what everybody else has. I never have been to the mart. And so I went on a trip from Connecticut to Atlanta, stopping different places. And then,
a road trip?
Yeah.
How fun.
And then I did another road trip from Atlanta south, Sea Island, St. Simons, that whole area, because I love water, I love natural things, palms, all of those things. I said, I'm gonna go down there and do the same thing I did north. And just started grabbing. I mean, literally just filled up my car, would come back, and then I do have a few vendors that I do order from. And that's sort of my little stuff, you know, gifty stuff. But for the most part, I really have morphed into a gallery. I'll always have French antiques, an upholstery line, and a few just fluff things that people need. But for the most part, and I have jewelry that does well on holiday mostly, and then when mothers are in looking at art, their children can look at something, things like that.
So retail is very risky.
Really?
Even in the best of times. What made you think that you could make a living at it?
It was very scary. I definitely had a lot of nights where I didn't sleep and I thought, I can't do this. But I am so grateful for good friends and family too, for sure, because that's your first support team.
Yeah.
And family came the day I opened, friends came the day I opened. And then it just seemed to kind of grow from there. And then, you know, Instagram is a huge platform for me.
Is it?
The more you post, I sell off of Instagram almost every single day.
Do you?
Yep. That has been fabulous. I was on Instagram, but I wasn't anywhere near as familiar with it as I am now.
Right.
And then, you know, there'd be those fluke days, like one of my dear friends from high school that I sort of kept up with all along walked in one day, and she spent a ridiculous amount of money. She got 5 paintings, a pair of lamps, and I just thought, I got this. That was the one day that I knew you just need to have a little of that every now and then. You can't expect it every day because it's never going to happen. But it really gave me the path and made me realize, you know, and then I literally got up the next day and went out and replaced it all. Because, you know, you got to keep that in mind too.
Fill the funnel.
Absolutely. And I don't want any holes on my walls or anything like that. So I also now have backlog in the back.
Well, what about the business side? Getting a retail space. Yes, you had an art background and a design background and a sales background, but what about becoming an independent businesswoman? What was the learning curve?
Very good question. It was nearly impossible is all I can tell you. My brother had previously opened his own business, and under an umbrella that he worked for, actually for my dad. And I said, okay, where do I start? And I had to get an accountant. I had to get, I had a business model from day one, which you have to do to create any of this and have an idea.
Did you have help getting that, or did you Google it?
I kind of did do that, and I talked to my brother. And because I worked at Juliska, I knew what I was capable of doing sales-wise.
Right.
I just had to make sure that I had the customers in and that I had the right merchandise to appeal to a very large group, which is really very difficult to do, because I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And you have to learn to buy what you don't like too. Because, yeah, you really do. Because it's not all for one person. And then the paperwork and getting the city license as well as the state license, I learned a very hard lesson. One day a lovely lady walked in with a thing around her neck and she said, "Can I see your business license?" I said, "Got it right here." Pulled it right out and she looked at it, she said, "Well, I need the city one too." And I went, "Oh." Or it might have been the reverse. So anyway, I had never applied for that. She said, "Well, we knew that, that's why I'm here."
Oh.
And I've been in business for 2 years already.
Oh.
So I had a few back fines. I had to go to court. It was a great lesson to this day. And, you know, it's hard to figure it all out the first time around if you've never done it.
I can't imagine.
And, you know, I had no idea that I'd have to give huge deposits to like Georgia Power because I'd never had a commercial license. and huge for the phone, huge for the internet, all of that. They still have a lot of my money because you gotta prove your track record first. So that was very difficult, I will tell you, and very expensive. I had no idea. And then I had to get my sign. There are lots of restrictions that this parking lot alone gives you that I didn't know. You have to have your sign lit on a timer 24/7. And I never thought about what the sign would cost. I knew how to think of everything else, and the space and the rent and the insurance and the alarm and the phones and the internet and the fire and the this and the that. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And one day they came in and checked my fire hydrant, what was in the box that I bought it from at Home Depot. Well, it's supposed to be hung on the wall and get checked every year.
Did you ever have moments of, what am I doing? My life, I could do something easier?
No, I was very committed. And once the doors opened, I was in complete heaven.
So who was there for you? Who did you rely on, and how did they support you?
Well, family for sure, and at the time I still had my dad, who was a huge support of all of this. He just thought it was the greatest thing I ever did. He'd come in every day after lunch, and he just said, you got this, you've got this, you're gonna be fine. He actually had a dream before I did this. And he said, I think you're gonna open a shop. And that went into my head, but it wasn't until I went and worked at the store in Martha's Vineyard that made me think, this is exactly what I wanna do. But anyway, back to your question. Friends and family, my sister, my youngest sister and my older sister, both of which would come in on a weekly basis, if not daily, and say, oh, I need a candle, I need a gift. And I know they didn't need it, but they wanted to make sure I had a couple of sales that day. And then my friends, same exact thing, and they all still do it to this day. Even though I feel like I'm pretty well established and people know I'm here. I did a little advertising in the beginning because I felt like I should. And but friends and family are how you can make anything happen in your life.
I love that.
Really and truly.
So Instagram, I would say in the last year, I had an Instagram account. I really didn't know what it was for.
Yeah.
I really didn't understand it. I understand it more now, but being a woman of our age and understanding the impact that can have on your business. We're not 20, right?
Right.
Posting selfies.
Yeah.
So how did you learn that? How did you embrace that?
I have a wonderful friend that I consider my mentor. She's one of the ones I've mentioned to you that you absolutely must have a conversation with.
Awesome.
She had a retail shop in Atlanta for 28 years. And she walked in here one day and she said, I like what you're doing. And we just got talking. Now we're great friends and see each other all the time. And she would just, in the sweetest, quietest little way, say, you know what you should do? Or you might want to think about. Her deliverance was always so lovely because it was never pressure or I know more than you. She just knew that I should consider, why don't you do this? Or you might consider getting a little bit of jewelry. There have been a lot of people that say, Instagram is a great platform. And she was helpful with all of that. And I find that the posting on Instagram is one of the best things I do. And I don't post every day, and I don't post every minute, and I don't like posting 5 times a day because people don't need to see that much.
Right.
I like to keep it where it's, oh, she posted today. Something that's a little more exciting and something they haven't seen.
Right.
And I have people buy from Canada off one picture on Instagram. The sculptor is a lovely lady that's from Atlanta, Dory. This is Shattered, one of my favorite pieces.
Holly, my interview setup is the end I like to wrap up with just girl talk over cocktails. I think it's especially fitting since I met you in a bar. Where could we go, sit down and chat and have a drink?
Preferably somewhere cool, so why don't I have you in my house for a while?
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. I bet it is every bit as beautiful as this gallery.
It's a fun place to be.
All right.
And there's always wine.
I can't wait to see it.
Okay, great.
Thanks.